Hello, my name is Eric Harlan. I am a SharePoint PFE out of the Central region, and I have a panel of 4 other PFEs who are coming from all over the country, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what the PFE role is and what it has to do with the SharePoint community. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off for some introductions.
My name is Lori Gowan. I'm a PFE out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Mike Stevens. I am a what we call a hybrid PFE, but a premier field engineer out of Atlanta, Georgia.
I'm Kirk Evans. I am a principal PFE based out of Dallas, Texas.
I'm Jason Galicchio. I am a dedicated PFE out of the New Jersey area.
And like I said, my name is Eric Harlan. I am a transactional PFE out of the Central region, out of Dallas, Texas. All right, guys, so we're here, SharePoint Conference 2012. We're talking about community, so we really wanted to get together and see what the take of the PFE, what the role is, and how it interacts with the SharePoint community as a whole. So let's go ahead and start with Lori and tell us a little bit about what the PFE role is for you.
Well, I'm a fairly new PFE. I started in May, but for me it's been a lot of meeting customers, meeting their needs. Some of it is proactive. We want to do things ahead of time, and some of it is reactive. We've got a problem and can you come help us fix it? So a lot of that and meeting those customers' needs, and while we're there, trying to meet all the other needs that surround it.
So, you know, from a community engagement standpoint, we are getting much more engaged in the community outside of Microsoft.
Yes.
Personally, in the Atlanta area, I find it really rewarding to be able to go out to the user group, see my customers interact kind of outside of the scope of our normal engagement. And it's really fun to be able to give back a little bit and really just collaborate outside the context of the normal kind of customer-premier relationship. So that's really been a strong focus for us lately, and personally I enjoy it, being actively engaged with our user groups.
Something that's been really cool that I've gotten to do lately is participate in this program called the Ignite program for training. So I've gotten to fly all around the world to go talk with customers about SharePoint 2013 and help train developers and IT Pro on how to use the new product. So interacting with the community, not only in my local area, but around the world, has been actually really cool.
The PFE to me, in addition to what everyone else has just said, is also on a mentoring level and passing knowledge on. In addition to that, I've kind of taken it a little bit further in that I help run a user group. I do organize community events, which helps me get to interact and be able to pass that knowledge on to more and more people.
Yeah, so ultimately, it comes down to we run so parallel to these 2 different organizations. We're working day in and day out with the technology, and then there's this whole large community as a whole that is also working day in and day out with the technology. And whenever there's interaction points, whether it be something to actually fix, or someone having trouble with something, or just general context as a whole, PFE or us as a non-PFE seem to interact at some level, whether that be Twitter or Facebook or on site. You're doing evangelism on site, which is kind of a secondary to the role that you're already doing, right? So you're there to fix something, but at the same time that person might be a user group member or want to find a user group or that sort of thing. So it always comes in pretty handy when that sort of thing. And then Kirk, you were talking about doing a lot of traveling, so tell us a little bit about the traveling role of PFE.
Yeah, middle seat to Hyderabad, India. That was awesome. Yeah, I've been really fortunate to participate with the Ignite program to go out and train customers. It's for IT Pro, there's 4 days of training. For developers, there's 5. And we go on site and just show them everything about how to build apps, how to configure search, user profile, you name it. Any features that are in there, we show them. And what's been really rewarding is being able to meet people that come up and say, I read your blog, or I follow you on Twitter. You're like, really? You and my mom, thanks.
So the best feedback I actually ever got from my blog was a woman who came up to me at a SharePoint Saturday DC event and said, I read your blog not only for the technical content, but the fact that you're actually funny in how you say it, and you talk about other things outside of just SharePoint. And I think that's part of it, right? So someone wise once said, the SharePoint community is a community in which when you make the right connections, you never actually talk about SharePoint, right? So you're out you're at a SharePoint or you're at a SharePoint Saturday and your session's over and you're talking to just a normal person who's having the same sort of things that you have to interact with on a daily basis, right? So let's switch a little bit. Mike, tell me a little bit about what the hybrid role is and what PFE is as a whole, and then narrow it down a little bit to what the hybrid role is.
Okay, so Lori said we do a lot of proactive work. I think at its roots, PFE, Premier Field Engineer, we used to be called rapid response engineers. Imagine a blazing fire in your SharePoint server farm with smoke coming out of it, right? And then we come in and put the fire out.
The SWAT team of support.
You know, something along those lines. That's really kind of the origin or the genesis of the PFE role. And so, you know, transactional, like Eric, like you are, we basically jump from fire to fire, right? And rapid response. We've shifted a lot more. I think as, you know, our services have evolved, as the product's matured, as customers have matured into the product, we've enjoyed a higher amount of stability from a services standpoint and getting ahead of that from a proactive standpoint. So we're not all exclusively transactional, where we go from reactive case to reactive case, and we also have another flavor of PFE called a dedicated support engineer, where we stay with customers for longer stays of time and work on keeping them healthy and being proactive. So in the middle of those two, between transactional and dedicated, we have a hybrid role, which is an interesting role where you have a select group of customers that you work with for a portion of hours, and then in the gaps you get to still go out and, you know, earn frequent flyer miles and you know, get through some tough times and enjoy a pint afterwards.
Yeah, so actually all of us are eligible to take crit sits. Can you take crit sits as well?
Probably could, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, so literally at any time, someone could leave this panel with an email saying you need to be on a plane in 10 minutes, and it happens. Not super frequently, thankfully, but it happens enough to be wary of the crit sit email.
Happened last year.
Yeah, it did happen last year.
For me, I was leaving the Anaheim conference, and I was on the tarmac. My plane was waiting to take off, and I got a phone call, and it was a crit sit. So I literally flew home, changed, went right back to the airport, and flew out.
Right.
So at any time it can happen.
And that's context to the support that we offer to customer bases as a whole, right? That's not to say that the job is scary and you could be torn away from your family at any time. It's really just, that's the level of support that we offer Premier customers, and that's what each of those independent, you know, dedicated, transactional, and hybrid roles do.
Right.
Yeah, I'm dedicated, and when my customer says we're having a lot of issues, and depending on severity, I really don't mind driving in the car a couple hours, go up north, just go help them out, and make sure that we can get the wheels back on.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, we're all about getting our customers healthy and then keeping them healthy.
Right.
That's
Ultimately, it's less crit sits, the healthier everyone is, right?
Right.
Yep.
So let's switch a little bit back. We talked a little bit about what the PFE role is. Let's talk about how we've gotten involved in the community side of things. So I know our story, actually Mike and Lori, our story parallels very closely because it seems like we kind of jumped in the mixing pot at the same time. So I want to get your perspective, Lori, specifically on, you know, where we started off, and I remember like user groups and SharePoint Saturdays and that whole thing, and where we are now at this point.
Right. So really kind of we all met at a SharePoint Saturday event. I am involved in the user group in Birmingham, Alabama, and I co-run it with another lady that is a SharePoint MVP. And we had gone over to a SharePoint Saturday event and met these guys. You were speaking, I think.
Yeah.
And in Atlanta, yes, in Atlanta. And met them, and we've all kind of gotten involved in the community in different ways. You and I both do a lot of speaking. You do a lot of support with the user group. I also support a user group. You've run our user group, so we've done a lot of work in that area, not just as PFEs, but also just as SharePoint professionals and sharing that knowledge with other people in the community and helping them to grow and learn and building them up into the community as well. And I really like doing that, seeing people that have come into the user group and even other PFEs. There's a couple of PFEs that I'm working on trying to get them involved in the community because I know that they have knowledge that other people will really benefit from, and trying to build them up into the community. And seeing that happen is a really, really good thing to see. Other people mature into that role.
It just seems that the product in which we work with somehow lends well to being involved in community as a whole. Whatever level of community you're involved in, whether that's, you go to a user group every month, or you're at every event locally and regionally, and then at the big conferences, whatever area of involvement that you want to be in. And that's the beauty of the SharePoint community, because there are many, many, many layers, and you don't have to be consuming all these layers at one time. You can be, focused on one little thing at one little time as well. So the other side of it, community, blogging, right? So most of us all have blogs. I know yours, Kirk, you get a ton of traffic along the lines of very specific issues that you've faced within your customer engagement.
Sure.
I know I've actually, and this happens all the time. In fact, a lot of us will blog simply so that we remember what the issue is to go back and fix it.
Sometimes it's embarrassing to go back and read your blog and oh, that's how that works.
And I have a lot of grammar mistakes, and I really need to go back and fix it.
Bing search and yours is at the top, and you're like, wait a minute, I've already fixed this.
So tell us a little bit about some of those blog posts. I know recently you did some stuff on how the inner workings and processes actually are kicking off within, was it user profile?
Yeah, the My Site Cleanup Timer job.
Yeah.
The way that I usually write blogs is exactly like you said. When a customer has an issue, I'll spend a bunch of time researching it, doing everything from help see what's the behavior that the customer's seeing, grabbing performance counters, logs, troubleshooting, but also as PFE we have source code access, so I'll do a lot of stuff trying to match what I'm seeing in the logs down into the actual source code of the product. And I got to learn a lot about how that particular process worked. So I was able to go back and write an article. And the really cool thing was I want to always make sure that I'm not saying the wrong things. So I was able to work with the product team too to say, what I'm writing, is it okay to say this publicly? And they were like, yeah, completely. Go ahead and write all. We'd love to see more articles like this. So I usually work with customer situations, and then instead of just writing them a one-off email that's end up going to get deleted and somebody's not going to remember it, post it out to the blog and share it, not only with point my customer there as documentation, but let the rest of the community use it too.
Right. Oh, and specifically people inside of Microsoft too, because one of the biggest misconceptions about coming to work at Microsoft is that you know every single thing there is to know about that product, and it's just not. It's not possible, right?
You don't know that?
Bob over in the printer drive?
Yeah, exactly. So, the great thing about community as it is within Microsoft's PFE is all this stuff gets disseminated within our local communities, and other people are referencing that data as well. So not only are you blogging to yourself so you can remember it, but you're blogging with the external community. You're reminding the internal Microsoft community what it is to interact with this specific issue. So you're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, right. I think at that point too, one of the unique things about where we are in PFE is that we also get to bring that back up, right? So my first year when I was in the transactional role, I think I went to 50 different customers in 1 year. So we get to bring a lot of information back, kind of real world issues, pain points, considerations, things like that. So I think it's a two-way street. It puts us at a very interesting position within the group.
The clients really like that. They really like the fact that, if we're there, whether it's transactional or dedicated, a lot of questions come up are, well, how does everybody else do SharePoint?
Right.
And one of the things, like Mike was saying, and being able to go and do that, we can say, well, we've seen it like this, and we've seen it like this, and like this, and this is what the pros and cons are for each specific scenario. And it helps the client actually be able to do it in a better way, because they may not know, and they're just going to, do it what they feel is the correct way to go.
Right. Absolutely. So, you can go this way, you can go this way. Please don't do it this way. We've seen it that way. Please don't do it that way.
Because we'll be back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we've talked about user groups. We've talked about blogs. A lot of other PFEs, not only in SharePoint, this is cross technology verticals, right? So a lot of other PFEs are involved with many other types of organizations within community. So again, blogs, user groups, you've done tech days, tech extravaganzas.
Yes.
Sorry.
So,
as well as SharePoint Saturdays. Let's talk about tech extravaganza a little bit.
So there's a couple, since I'm from the New York metro area, I get to work, I'm very lucky, I get to work with a lot of other technologies and a lot of the technology, the user group leads. So with a couple other divisions within Microsoft, we were actually able to create like a tech day. We called it Tech Extravaganza, and we pulled PowerShell, we pulled Exchange, we pulled SharePoint, we pulled Windows. And so what we were able to do was kind of create like a mini tech ed type event. And I think even this year we're going to pull SQL into it. So we're giving, the idea of giving back. It's not just SharePoint. We're pulling in everybody else to say, look, we all want to help. Here's a perfect way to do it. It's just a matter of finding the right people to make it happen.
Right. I think as a whole, Microsoft and the SharePoint community are lining up more and more, right? So as things progress internal to the community, and we know kind of this arc that we're proceeding on in terms of, we understand what community is, how it relates back to business, how it relates to keeping the product moving in a positive direction, right? Everything else is kind of falling in line with that. And it's not just PFE, right? There's other people here at the Microsoft, or at the SharePoint conference who are not within PFE roles. Right. So there's MCS, there's some TSPs, there's TAMs I know are actually here as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this is specific to just PFE, right? So Microsoft and SharePoint as a whole is really just going down the line of what community is, and we've seen that within the release of 2013. It's more social based anyway.
Right.
So we're going in that direction, which is always great. All right. I don't even know how much time we have left.
You okay?
I'm good. So, all right.
That's on camera, by the way.
That's okay. We'll edit that. All right, so anyone else? Let's bring up some topics. What do you guys want to talk about in terms of SharePoint conference and why we're here, what we like to do?
In terms of community, this is the best opportunity for community. You get to see all of a bunch of our colleagues, the PFEs, guys that are in the audience. Give us a holler. Come on, guys. There you go.
Thank you, all 7 people in the audience.
Anchor small.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see not only that, but old friends. You walk by all the partner booths that are out in the expo hall, and as you go by, it's like all these faces that you get to see so many times.
It's like a family reunion.
It almost is, yeah. Yep. With beer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why are you not here?
That is
a family reunion.
Awesome.
And what they've done this year is they've really made community a focus, and I really do like that, because I don't know if y'all have hung out in the community lounge much, but I've been over here a lot last night and some today, and it's been really interesting to see people come in and really wonder what community is, and there was actually somebody who didn't know what a user group was, and we were able to talk to them about user groups and where they were and try to help them get plugged in to different places. So it's been really, really neat to see that, because there's a lot of people that come through the exhibit hall and they may never have been plugged into anything. They just heard about the SharePoint conference. They work with SharePoint. Their boss told them to go for training or whatever. And so they're here walking around, and we can actually connect them with other people that can help them, not just us.
Yeah, the moment you introduce someone to the SB Help hashtag in Twitter and realize that they can get real-time help, it just blows their mind. They don't have to call anybody, just send out a quick tweet, get a link back to whatever their issue might be. And the community lounge is totally new this year. We haven't had this in the past, and there's a lot of different community organizations represented there. I think, just to name a few, and I'll probably miss some, but Women in SharePoint, Sharing the Point, no, not Sharing the Point, but SharePint.
Sharing
the Point, Sharing the Point.
SharePoint Saturday.
And there's a couple others, I'm sure.
User groups, MVPs, SharePoint Pod Show.
Right, so that's a whole new push. I mean, we're sectioning off an entire corner of a vendor area just for community, right? So it's apparent that we're going in that direction, and everyone is finally starting to see how this all lines up. So that's always nice.
Yes.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about SharePoint Saturday. What do you think? So I think every single one of us at one time have either hosted one or been to one to speak, if not anything else, attended. I think we can all say that, right? We've all been there. Yeah. Favorite SharePoint Saturday ever?
Favorite SharePoint Saturday ever?
What is
Baltimore?
SharePoint Saturday? What is Jason, what's SharePoint Saturday?
What is SharePoint Saturday? SharePoint Saturday is a free technical event. So you go on a Saturday, you're there all day, we feed you breakfast, we feed you lunch, and all throughout the day you have nothing. It's essentially, think of this conference shrunk down into a one-day event that's like 8 hours, and it's session after session after session, multiple tracks. And then best of all is that at the end, you get prizes.
Most
and
of the time.
you, well, not at your event maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But we give out prizes, and then the SharePoint afterwards, where you get, one-on-one time with.
SharePoint afterwards?
No, SharePint.
Oh, SharePint. Oh, what is that? What's SharePint?
SharePint is when
I can't decipher what it is with the name.
you can't.
When geeks talk SharePoint over beer. Let's
Yes,
make it
yes,
Nice.
yep. That's the easy way of looking at it.
So going back, seriously, what was your favorite one?
The one that I was at in Baltimore. That was one of my favorite ones.
She's just saying that because I hosted the one in Baltimore.
No, I'm really not, because y'all actually do an outstanding job.
Great.
Close second would have been this year at SharePoint Saturday Ozarks in Branson, Missouri, because they had a lot, and they had a lot of community people get involved. There's an actual band that's made up of some SharePoint people that came and played at the
Awesome.
SharePoint. It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
we're not all geeks. We have talent as well outside of
Yes.
technology.
I don't know. Did you hear that band?
It
they
was
good?
a really good band.
You're going to hurt some people's feelings.
It was a really good band.
Oh wait, no. Jeff's not in the audience. Never mind.
Rob Foster's.
Rob Foster's
Oh.
band, yes.
What about you, Mike?
I'm completely and totally biased. Atlanta has the best SharePoint Saturday. End of story.
If I said anything other than Dallas, it would.
We also have the best SharePoint.
He also just knows that Dallas is better. That's all.
Clearly. Well, we have the panel slightly outweighed with Dallas residents here. So, what about you?
SharePoint's bigger in Texas.
Look, I of course I'm biased. I mean, it's New York City. We kick
You guys
everybody
have a
else's
great
butt.
event every
Yes.
year.
But I will say though that I think my favorite one was the first DC that I attended, because that's where I met a couple of the community people who then literally introduced me to 80 speakers over the course of one day. That's where I met you.
Yep.
I didn't meet Mike, but I met Lori, I met you. It was just this whirlwind of
Right.
here's the community, the doors opened, and
Make of it what you will.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just stayed in that room the whole time. you
Well,
know?
that's a good point, right? I mean, because
Yes.
every single layer of community introduces you to some other aspect of what supports that layer. So whether it
Right.
be, a user group president or, co-chair or whatever it might be, supporting that user group and making sure that every month there's an event, or a SharePoint Saturday event, local host at a particular city, organizing all that stuff and putting it together, or SharePoint Saturday Global as a organization wide, the level in which you get connected, whether you want to speak or whether you just want to attend SharePoint Saturdays in cool places like Dubai or UK or whatever it might be. I'm going to Dubai next month, so it's in my head. But different interaction points of how you want to get involved with your community and how you want to consume that information. It's just like Twitter. People are scared of Twitter because it's all this stuff that, going to the gym and going, pick up my kid. It's not about that. It's about what you consume.
No, there's a lot about
Right.
that.
There is. There is.
There
But
is.
it's about what you consume, right? It's
Filter, man,
It's the
filter.
network that you want to be plugged into. And I think that really just leads us to our last point of, PFE as a whole is not just Microsoft's wing of support, for Premier. It's so much more than that, because we have people internal that want to see both the product mature. We want to see more things come out of it. We wanted to enhance our own careers. Obviously, we do this for a lot of different reasons. One of them is that. And we want to get to know people. And at every single point and every single level, there's a PFE that I can recall in any single technology. Someone's out there in that community. So I think that's a good tie-in for PFE and community as a whole.
Yes.
Good? All right, so everyone, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Again, Premier Field Engineering with Microsoft. If you ever have an issue, something's on fire, call Mike. No, call
Follow
Premier.
us
Thank you
on
very much
Twitter.
for having us. Appreciate it.
You can follow us on Twitter with MSPFE.
MSPFE.
Hashtag.
Hashtag.
Hashtag
Hashtag.
MSPFE.
All these people are now going to do
Thanks for having
MSPFE.
Thank you. Well, that was fun.
No.